everybody, and thanks for joining me today. I am continuing to work on leaves. There's kind of a mix of confetti and bigger blocks here. We will see how far I get today. Working on, there's kind of a curled up leaf here. I think it's a maple leaf. And kind of the shadows behind it. And as I said in a previous session, I'm getting closer to the center where it's out of focus and it's big blocks, so I should make a lot of progress pretty fast there. Alrighty, here we go. Oh, I got some different leaf shapes. There's one kind of going here, one going here. There's some more here, so I'm just kind of, I'm going to work sort of what's around this row 100 over to the right, to which is around 95 or so, is how far I extended it over to the right. Of course, I may change my plan as I stitch. That often happens. Here we go. Oh, did I get both of them? Yes, I did. Okay, good. There may be a bit more background noise today. We've got, it's a bit of a windy day, and the guys are home. They have some time off work, so I'm not all alone while I stitch today. They do know I'm filming, so, but I don't know. Sometimes my husband forgets even. I had a couple times I told him, okay, I'm going to be filming, and then 15 minutes later he comes in and asks me something. I'm like, dude, you can see the camera right there. I edited it out, so it wasn't a big deal, but it's just kind of like, I even told you ahead of time what I was planning to do. I guess it just went out of your head. He's in the garage working with his newest machine, so I don't expect to see much of him right now. Got a metal bending machine because he's restoring an old Unimog, and he has to make pieces for the cab, which requires a lot of bending, and he said he was paying a company in town to do it, but they were always within, they considered within 1/8 of an inch tolerable, and he likes things to be exact. So, and with the amount he was paying for them to do the work and then having to fix it himself, he decided, one went on sale, he decided he's going to do it himself in that way. Like they say, if you want it done right, do it yourself, right? So that is where he's at. It is a chilly day today. We had sort of another little burst of heat for like a week, and then now it is back to being chilly like it was in June. And it's supposed to rain quite a bit over the next couple weeks. Not like a lot of accumulation, but sort of like a trace every day. So it's going to be kind of gloomy. Hopefully it won't be too much, because we had trouble earlier this summer. There was so much rain, we were actually at the risk of flooding in places. Thankfully that seemed to be okay, but definitely don't want that. We had one year, we had a ton of rain all at once, and I think the drains either got clogged or it was just too much for it to handle, and people went kayaking on the streets and canoeing, which is such a Canadian thing to do. And I remember my husband called me at the time. We worked at the same place, and he just said, don't bother coming to work, it's completely flooded out. He was barely able to make it because he had a full-size truck, but he saw, it was on the news, there were pictures of somebody's little Sprint got washed away, a dumpster got lifted and washed several blocks away, so my little I think it was an Elementor, it might have been my CRV that I had before that. Either way, though, would have been definitely too small to make it. We were very lucky. Our office, where the worst flooding was, the water got to within an inch of actually flooding the floor, but it didn't. Which I was glad, because I had a foot warmer pad on the floor under my desk, and like it wasn't on, but it was plugged in, and well, definitely don't want that getting flooded, and thankfully it didn't. There was a picture or a little video somebody took. They were at the Superstore, which is kind of down in a little gully almost, and there was water coming up like a geyser in the pharmacy section. Oh, it was not good. Every time we flood, they get it pretty bad. We're on the prairies, so we're mostly flat, but there are a couple little sort of dips and hollows, and they always get it. Alrighty, so like I said, I think that's sort of the edge of a leaf there, and this is kind of the darker background behind it here. So I finally had to give up with my anti-snore device. It was helping with the snoring, but I think it was keeping me from sleeping deeply, because I woke up more tired every day. So I give up. I've ordered a new mouthpiece that should be here. I've tried some of the bigger ones. They're the boil and you bite it, and but they were too big, very uncomfortable. I said what kept me from snoring because they were so uncomfortable I couldn't sleep. But this other one I found is a much thinner one, and so I'm hoping that that will work. I tried the Snore RX, which is like the brand everybody raved about, but like I said, it was big, and I tried it for like a week, and it was awful. I will say they do honor their money back guarantee, so there's that. Of course, in Canada, our shipping is pretty expensive, so I did get my money back, but when you accounted for, they only, of course, refund the amount of the device, not the shipping, and you have to pay to ship it back. So in the end, I only got about half back what I originally paid. So it was something, but I was still out money. So So according to the tracking info, it's probably going to be here today or tomorrow. But I quit, like I said, using the electrical pulse device, and I woke up feeling much more refreshed, even if I did snore a bit. So unfortunately, it didn't work. There's a couple more different products I've got to try if this one doesn't work. Oh dear. Tell you, I've been having that problem lately, where one strand pulls properly and the other one doesn't. I've not been having good luck lately. Okay, this is a short piece. I don't usually try to leave it threaded, but we'll see if it works or not. I just find the needle doesn't like to stay on usually when the piece is getting this close to the end. At least it's not too windy today. yesterday was really bad. We had gusts up to 90 kilometers, as you can imagine. That could get quite loud. Or sort of all my threads are coming to an end at the same time. That does happen sometimes. Just looking ahead, you can see there's kind of a almost triangular shape here. That's what I'm working on, and then I'll probably fill up above it. Do. Then there's another shape here, which is another leaf, I think. But I'm gonna leave that for later. Loop that around that edge there. So like I said, as you can see, it's around 102 is where another shape kind of starts, which I will tackle later. Drop that to let it untangle a wee bit. All right, and then the closest is way over here. It's a bit further than I like to carry, so I'm going to tie off this thread. Yeah, either direction is kind of a bit further than I want to carry the thread across the back. I will end it off. Like I said, sorry, more background noise today than usual. Oh dear. Make sure I grab the correct thread here. Grid lines helping me with that, since they give me a nice little cross check. All right. Let's see how long this piece is. I don't think it's very long. Oh, actually, no, it is. I must have just joined it. I must have been thinking of a different thread. That was shorter. All right. If I do manage to make it to 40,000 total, then that'll put me at 20% exactly. That will be exciting. All right, so I'm gonna park this right here. Switch colors. Now, if I remember correctly, this one is not terribly long. No, that's what I thought. Make sure that's in the correct spot. Yes, it is. And this one. All right. Switch colors again. Okay. I apologize for that. I thought he was in the garage when I started, but no, he was downstairs. Now he's in the garage. Oh dear. As I often say, this is not the most professional. I don't have a studio. I'm just a gal in the living room, stitching away. I'm gonna try to edit out some of the louder sounds. I swear when he's trying to be quiet, he's louder. Isn't that always the way? Oh dear. So as I said, a bit of a mix here. Some confetti and some bigger blocks here. So I have been kind of diagonal-ish for a while. That's probably going to change, and I'm going to follow that sort of triangular shape that way and then fill in. I often say when it's more confetti heavy, I tend to be more diagonal, and when there are bigger blocks, I tend to follow the shapes they make, which is why this is called the color flow method. So when it's kind of two rows of two or three stitches like this, I tend to kind of do both rows at once. When it gets longer than that, then I tend to do each row individually, because I found I did once where I did a whole bunch, like 30 stitches long, and when I was doing sort of this closed in row, it created a kind of a tension line, and I was not happy with it. Luckily for me, that actually ended up being in the piece that I had to restart. So I learned my lesson not to do that again. And that was where I did 10,000 stitches in the wrong color when I did my first start of my last piece, the Marvelous Garden, the Peacocks piece. And someone said I could leave it because it was like a cloud and maybe I could make it a storm cloud. I'm like, but the rest of the scene is not stormy, so it would have bothered me forever that it was wrong. So I restarted. And that is actually the piece of cloth I'm using here. I decided I was not going to pick out that many stitches, but I also didn't want to waste the piece of cloth. So that one was over 300,000 stitches. This project is under 200, and I went, I bet it will fit. And I won't have to rip anything out, and I was right. So I lose some of the cloth, but at least the entire thing was not a complete write-off. That meant my gridding stayed intact, so I didn't have to regrid either. So I've had some people ask if I'm going to cut the extra off to make it easier to work with, but then my grid lines would be loose because they're tied at the end. So I just went, you know what, I'll leave the whole thing, and I will cut it later during the finishing when, well, the grid lines will all be removed at that point, so it won't matter. I actually kind of like a lot of extra fabric on the sides. I find it helps me to sort of have more room to work. I can put it in the frame, sort of further away from the frame if I want to, so that it's easier to kind of work, because I find working really close to the frame can be a bit of a pain. So when I first started stitching, I didn't know you should leave extra, and I was really bad, and I would stitch to like within 2 or 3 stitches from the edge, and those are pieces I kind of never finished, and I didn't really know any better. But then I discovered during finishing, oh, you actually do need some extra cloth to work with. Most say at least 2 stitches around, or inches around each side stitches. Yeah, that wouldn't be enough. But I like to leave 4. I just find it easier to work with. Now, I'm pretty sure this stuff under here is like a lighter orangey yellow color, so I am going to draw this across the back away from that area rather than pin stitching in that area, because this is black. I don't want it to potentially show through. There we go. And so like I said, work down to around row 102, and then I'm going to leave this color and come back to it later after I've sort of filled in, squared off what's above it. I'm working to around column 95. Fill everything in, then I will shift the entire frame over and keep going. So I'm not sure if I will reach the first of the stag's antlers this month or not. It's still, I think, put my mock up here. Yeah, it's still a bit of a ways away. We will see. I will definitely get to it in September if I don't in October. Oh, I almost made like a huge satin stitch across the back. That's no good. Let's try that again. Oh, there we go. There. I almost caught the loop with my needle, and that would have been not good. right. Yeah, it's windy out there, but at least it's some nice blue sky. When we went to Drumheller, it was definitely hot. It was over 30 degrees Celsius. And in some places, like we went to the Atlas Mine, or when we went to the Hoodoos, it was, well, the sun was reflecting off of the rock as well, so it was like double, double heat. The sun was, you got the heat from the sky and then a ton of heat because the rocks were pale and was reflecting it all back at you. We went through a lot of water on those days. It wasn't as bad. The first time we went to the mine, it was closer to plus 40, and I remember the tour guide, he handed us all spray bottles, and I said, you know, what is this, bug spray? He says, no, it's air conditioning. I was like, yeah, spray yourself down, and then you feel a little cooler as it evaporates. So new colors coming up here, but like I said, I'm gonna cut it off for now. That way I sort of don't have to deal with too many colors at once. I can do that, I have done it before, but I find it kind of slows me down, so I stick to smaller areas. Finish them and then move to the next area. I find that the easiest. I was saying I wasn't sure when I would get another 0, but I actually did the other day. I was not expecting it, and I looked ahead. There's a couple more in this pass. I don't know if I'll get them on camera or not, but it was another light green in amongst some of the leaves that I got to 0 out. Like I said, I wasn't expecting, because sort of the whole area is kind of surrounded by leaves and pine needles and such, the whole pattern, so I didn't expect to get another 0, but I was pleasantly surprised. That, and then I'm going to sort of stitch in this direction. Yeah, as you can hear, the vent cover in my kitchen, it flaps around in the wind. Not too bad today, but some days it can get very noisy if the wind is blowing just the right way. So this thread I'm probably going to draw along that way, and I might start another thread sort of coming down from the top. I'll, as usual, decide when I get there. I've talked before about how I like to read, but I think this year I'm not going to make my goal. I try to read a book a week, but I am very, very far behind this year. I logged into my Goodreads to enter my latest one, and it was like, you are 9 books behind schedule. I'm like, oh dear. So we'll see. Although I'm often behind, and then I kind of catch up because I tend to read, there's a few Christmas novellas I read at the end of the year, so that kind of boosts my numbers a bit. So we will see. But usually I don't get this far behind. Usually I'm only 2 or 3 books behind, and I'm like 9 books behind this year, so. I've been busy. I had my push to, I really wanted to finish my peacock piece. So there was that. And of course, I went back to work part-time a year ago, so that has cut into my reading time as well. I used to read like 3 books a week, but I can't concentrate like that anymore. But like I said, I tend to read a lot of novellas at Christmas. There's a few that I like to reread every year. That does help kind of boost the numbers a bit. I was really happy when Goodreads made rereading possible, because it used to not. You would enter sort of the year that you had read it, and it would count towards that year. So if you changed the year, it would mess up your count for previous years and stuff like that. So yeah, I was really happy when some people said what they did was they would add it as a different edition of the same book. But I mean, some books don't have that many editions, so that would only work for certain books. So I was really excited a few years ago they made it possible for you to add rereads. I used to reread a lot when I was a kid. I don't as much now. Well, I guess I had less access to a variety of materials when I was a kid. I remember one of the schools I went to had a fairly small library, and I think I read the entire thing a couple of times, pretty much. Lots of Sweet Valley High, Babysitter's Club. There was another one, Fabulous 5 or something. My mom banned me from reading Sweet Valley High. I had to kind of do it on the sly. And then that one expanded. There ended up being a Sweet Valley University for when they got older. And I remember too, they always had left it with a little kind of teaser, a cliffhanger for the next book to try and get you to buy the next one. There was even one I remember that says, oh, everything will go back to normal after, somebody says, yeah, and after this contest. And he's like, what contest? So of course they were setting up the sequel bait. There was a TV series adaptation too. Didn't last very long though. I think it was like 2 or 3 seasons. I know Netflix, I think it was, did an adaptation of Babysitter's Club, but I haven't watched it. Okay, gonna pass 100 soon. Woohoo. All right. Let's check where I am. Make sure I'm in the right spot. Yep. One thing that makes me fall behind with my reading too is I'm not a completist anymore. If I'm bored, I don't finish a book. I used to force myself to finish books when I started them, but there are too many books, not enough time, so. But unfortunately that means if I don't finish it, it doesn't count towards my reading challenge. So if, say, I tried 4 books and only finished one of them, I only get credit for one, even if I read sort of, you know, a third of the others and it should count as 2 books. Doesn't. I mean, I suppose I could fudge it, but I don't want to say I finished something if I didn't finish it. Goodreads actually recently added a did not finish shelf. I actually made one myself, and so it said, like, if you've already created a exclusive shelf for did not finish, then it won't create a new one for you. But if you hadn't, because that's what happened, they give you, it comes with, I think, 3 exclusive shelves: want to read, to read, and read. And then you can add as many shelves as you want. And so that's how I keep track of mine, because people say, how do you know? Because I'll say, okay, I acquired this many print books this year, I acquired this many ebooks this year, I finished this many ebooks, I finished this many print. And people say, well, how do you know? I said, well, because I make shelves on Goodreads. They act like tags, and then that way I can just at a glance at the end of the year look at the numbers. So I make one sort of every year. I acquired this many as ebooks, I acquired this many, right, and I finished this many. I also have, I purged this many, so I started and didn't finish them. So I do have that. I would have a shelf labeled by the year, and anytime I started a book, it goes on that shelf even if I don't finish it, and then that way I can do the math that I started X number of books, but I only finished Y number of books, that kind of thing. And then, so I created an exclusive shelf, did not finish, years before it was cool. I think they probably noticed enough people were creating did not finish shelves that they decided it was a good idea to actually put it into their programming so that people could keep track of it. Because obviously enough people did wish to keep track of that. A lot of times when I'm kind of on the verge of deciding if I want to put a book on the do not finish, I'll hop onto Goodreads and sort of look at the reviews to see, like, does it get better? Because there was a couple of books that it was kind of slow, and somebody said, kind of push through the first 50 pages, the rest of the story is really good. And so because of that I did, and I was glad I did, because they were right. It was a little bit of a slow setup, but once it got going, it was really enjoyable. And but a lot of the times I'll read it and see that, no, it didn't improve, or somebody will say, and then the character did this, and it's something that's just a complete no-go for me. And so I know, okay, I'm not going to waste my time. The main character did something that's really going to tick me off, then I'm not going to do that. There's a book blogger I listen to, and they said, yeah, I don't reread stuff, so it's kind of hard when people will ask for a recommendation, and I'll think, oh, you'll really like this book, but then they'll think, I read this back in the 90s. If you read it with today's sensibilities, it might not hold up anymore. So they said sometimes I will recommend it to the person with the caveat of, okay, keep in mind, I read this 25, 30 years ago. So I remember it as being good, but you know, I was a lot younger then, and there might be things that flew over my head then that might make it want to explode now. You never know. You never know if some of it is just nostalgia, right? Oh, look at that. At 100. Woohoo! So again, this color I'll kind of do a bit here, and then I'm gonna move up and fill in some more. Little unexpected bits of red. Again, that's a darker color. I don't want it to come through, so I'm going to draw it across the back. Okay, I'm going to just, again, separate these, set them aside for a bit. Do. Some bigger blocks here. Sound right. No, but there's no knot there, so maybe it was trying to form. Oh, there it was. Yeah. It's very thin, so I hate when that happens, but it's so small, I'm gonna just keep working with it. If it was any bigger, I would tie off the thread and cut it out, but I think we're good here. I am lazy. Okay, I'm gonna skip a bit because I want the knot to stay on the back, so back won't look completely consistent, but oh, it was funny. There was somebody who posted in one of the cross-stitch groups I follow on Facebook. Her name is Sue, and she said, I turned over my work to tie it off and discovered I'd stitched my name on the back unintentionally. Oh, wait a sec. Yeah, so I did those actually. I was going the wrong way here. Yeah. Somebody said, wow, you should try to remember how you did that so you can sign all your projects that way. She said it was funny too. She said it was just a simple little kind of block of color. I don't know how it ended up that was how I carried the thread across the back, but it did. So that was quite funny. Probably wouldn't have happened if you'd tried. Of course, course, when it's framed, I guess you won't see it anymore. So, well, there was one person who said they actually had their work framed so that there was glass on the front and the back so that you could still see the back of the work, because she was quite proud of her tidy back, which I thought was kind of cool. I do take pictures of my back so you can see what it looks like, but you won't see it once it's completely finished. I always say my backs are not the messiest. They're not the neatest. They're kind of in between. I don't worry that much about how the back looks, just as long as it's not lumpy. So as you can see, I kind of squared this off. I could continue carrying these colors downwards this way. I'm probably going to move up and start working on that leaf. Like I said, I often decide once I get there what it is I actually want to do. You can see some colors go this way, some colors slant this way. So I'm probably going to work on that slant, and then, or what I might even do is kind of fill in a bit there, then come down here and fill out. It just, like I say, depends on what I feel like doing once I get there. Eventually, of course, the whole thing will be completely filled in. Will this strand be enough? It's going to be close. Yeah, there's one more. So I think I'm going to do it rather than leaving this parked. I don't want to have to fiddle with trying to re-thread that tiny little piece. So, and like I say, it's connected on at least one side, which is what I try to always do. Those is done. I think this strand might still be threaded. Yes, I might as well do it. Tie it off. We'll check if this one is also still threaded. No, it's not, so I'm not going to bother doing it for now. I'm going to instead move up a bit. Yeah, another of those red ones. Again, that's a brighter color. I don't want it showing through. So I use pin stitches most of the time. There are some times that I don't. And we're getting back into the oranges and yellows for this leaf. There's a bit of fiber stuck on that one. Oh dear. Oh yeah, I think this is a color. 11, yeah, 12. So it'll be a bit till I get to a 0 on this color, but it is coming up in this pass. Woohoo! Maybe even this month. We'll see. I try to save my zeros for on camera, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. Because I know you guys enjoy those too. Orangey red color. This leaf probably extends further, but like I said, I'm just kind of going to make a cutoff there so that it doesn't get kind of too overwhelming to stitch it once. Come back to it. Like probably gonna fill in everything, kind of square it off below it, and then, like I said, move the whole thing over. Yeah, I think looking ahead, the first antler doesn't show up until line about 160, and I'm working around the 80, row 80 here, so it might be next month that I get to the antler. There won't be any of his face in this pass, just his antlers. And then the next pass, the third one, is when we get to the deer's faces. Why don't we work to 150 or so, like usual. There's 7 here, and then, yeah, like I said, that's one that will zero out. Not today, but in the not too distant future. I guess there aren't as many of this color maple leaves. I think I did kind of most of them. Well, there is some actually at the end of this pass, but I guess this particular color just isn't used in them. Of course, there's a lot of similar colors. There, 152. So not a round number, but hey, not bad. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you here next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.